a lot of favorite shows. I mean, because if I'm watching Farscape, that is my favorite show of the time. If I'm watching 715, that is my favorite show of the moment. You know, I sit down and I review all the, before I do a talk even, before I update PowerPoints or anything, even for some of my blogs now, I review all the episodes and or films. And it's like, wow, that's my moment, you know, so that's the big thing of the moment. Firefly became my big thing of the moment for the last week. And so I know, but see, then I say, oh, that's even better than Star Trek.
Okay.
Technically speaking, it probably is.
Or should have been.
Technically speaking, you know, I don't want to betray my own faith, of course, but technically speaking, it really is that hardcore. And I think a more realistic portrayal of a futuristic Earth and some of the situations that we may very well be on path right now to encounter. You know, I love this whole thing with China. You know, that they do it. And that was before we really got as far as we have. So it's almost like, you know, a foresight of, hey, things to come. But, you know, back in the late 90s, I had professors at UMass predicting some of these things that would happen with China. And lo and behold, you know, they're happening. So looking at Firefly and looking at our real world now, you know, how far are we from something like that, or, you know, the possibility of something like that really happening to us? As far as two big powers, I don't see two big powers necessarily merging. You know, like they do in Firefly. I see one power squelching the other power in our time. But I think if anything major were to happen along those kinds of lines, you would see a lot of factions pop up, you know, around the globe, and a lot more turmoil in terms of, you know, rebellion popping up here, there, and everywhere. A lot more, you know, civil unrest and things like that. So in that respect, I think Firefly does a really good job of getting us to think about things that are happening, you know, in the recent past and in our current times. And so Firefly is by no means outdated, nor shall it ever be, I don't think, because of the nature of the issues that it addresses. Is, you know, you guys know a lot of this. Oh, look, Marcy, we have a topic for you. We'll make sure you're the high point of the Shepherd book discussion. Yeah, no, Marcy loves, especially the ladies. She can get dishes. I remember that. Anyhow, so there's a lot. You know, we can pull social and cultural themes out of Firefly for the next 250 years. No doubt about it. I could have a talk on each topic that I have up there. And you all know that if you know Firefly. How many people are really familiar with Firefly? Yes. Okay, that's a good thing. All right. So you know, that was my thinking. You guys know that we could take this and we could talk about each one of those things. You know, we might have to stay here for, you know, a week, but we could do that. And really, I don't think an hour-long talk really does Firefly justice. It's not going to happen. You know, out of gas, I have here under the topic of hero's journey, right here. Out of gas is probably the best episode I ever did. Well, it's the only time we start to see real depth to these characters and have an inkling of insight into who they really are or were. I got this. But I mean, the comic Shepherd's Tale. Anybody's read that?
Yep.
Okay, not a lot of people have read Shepherd's Tale. Oh my goodness, well, they had one upstairs.
I got all this upstairs right now.
Oh my goodness, I know, we should have, you know, we should have a show and stuff.
Right?
If you don't, how many people are unfamiliar with Shepherd Book's backstory?
That's the only
Most
way
of
he's
the
learning
room.
from the comic.
He was a wild and woolly guy, you know, for the Alliance.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. He was a wild and woolly Alliance guy. Why do you think when he brought up calling the Alliance, now they're all freaky? Oh, who are you really, dude? Yeah, picture dude, who are you really? You can call the Alliance, right in line, huh? Yeah, you got. I don't want to spoil it, Paul. 99% of the room doesn't know about Shepherd's Book backstory.
That's sad.
That is sad. You guys have got to read the comic Shepherd's Tale.
I know we were just talking about no shame at con, but
Yeah. You And then you wouldn't know that by watching, that's what I mean, if you watch the episode Out of Gas, I really think that is really the only episode that they were able to break through and give us that a little bit of inkling into the background and real nature and depth of these characters. And that show really did not get it to do. By any means. To be able to bring in those backstories and really develop the depth of those characters, this would have blown everything else out of the water if they got to do what they wanted to do with the show. So just that topic alone, we could have, 5-hour discussion just on the episode.
Yeah.
Cultural meaning, but this also really epitomizes and really cinches the topic of a hero's journey to be present in Firefly finale. Because it helps everybody define his own. A lot of cultural meanings, and I think a lot of lessons to be learned in Firefly, a lot of moral and ethical dilemmas of Firefly. And in general, you want some good myth, Firefly. And I would concede to Firefly over Star Trek on that category. And I don't concede anything to anybody. I mean, you know me, I'm hardcore. And this whole fandom of gravitates that's sprouted up. And I know there was a campaign to try to bring back Firefly, and in this day and age, I'm really surprised it didn't go as well as...
Well, the whole thing Fox got really, the whole academy damper on that.
Yeah, the academy.
Because I made the 10th anniversary here at Comic-Con and in New York, and everybody's down, but Fox won't release the rights.
Yeah.
That's what it really comes down to.
Well, the actors have moved on with you.
Well, they have, they won't,
Yeah.
if they had the opportunity, they all said they would come back for it, yeah.
Yeah.
But the problem is, no one.
You were watching Castle, what was it, like, second season of Castle, they had a big celebration on the Halloween episode, as Matt.
Yeah.
2 years ago, his daughter said, but Space Cowboy.
There's that protest, that ongoing protest even by the cast members to keep this going. And I think it was very crushing, very hurtful for them to see, the potential that this show had just crushed.
All right.
Now, I mean, we're all very familiar with Fox, are we not?
Yeah, the Fox name.
Well, in my opinion, it's right up there with what they did to my Babylon 5 on UPN.
Yeah, they kind of.
I'm going to watch Babylon 5 at this time on Sunday evenings. No, I'm not, because there's a Bruins hockey game on. Babylon 5 will be on at 3. They just massacred it to the point they hit it, buried it, so you never could see it. No, not releasing the rights, not letting this show continue. I think it's very wrong. And
Well, they're on it for the money now, like when they start to make the chain hats and everything. Yeah.
I mean, we could stage a takeover of Fox.
Oh, down.
Yeah. Anybody down to the takeover of Fox? And then Firefly. Start our own revolution. We can start our own revolution.
Right? You just write it right out.
You knew there'd be another revolution, right, Marcy?
Yeah.
That's good. You partaking? Of course. Oh, that's nice. I don't know how. I don't know. Oh, yeah, you did good. I don't know how into Firefly you were.
I really liked it.
Yeah. Well,
And Serenity too.
yeah. Serenity too.
Well, 30 times I've never had.
Yeah, no. They killed Washington, suck it.
Oh, hang on.
Those my friends kind of say that Firefly has to be good because Fox canceled it.
Or at least this is my full Gotham.
You know what? Oh, God, I know. We're letting Gotham. I love Gotham.
I know. I'm trying not to get too attached. If it makes it past the first season, then I'll be good.
I'm already attached, if that's what you're talking about.
Keep on trying.
Anyhow, looking at Firefly as a cultural mirror, and this set of PowerPoints by no means was an easy task. I've done Firefly once in the past, and that was also not an easy task. But again, an hour-long discussion on this is just hard, really hard. But, I can see all the things that Fox doesn't like about a show like this, right? You've got, the issue of imperialism, you've got colonialism, you've got the Cold War imagery in the show. You've got imperial struggles throughout Firefly and all the different worlds that are represented in the series. And even, between the Alliance, the Rebels, and even what Mal's doing along the way. Of course, you've got your factions, unrest and civil war, that's displayed in, very well depicted throughout Firefly. I like this. This gives a whole new meaning to cowboy diplomacy, does it not? Oh, yeah. I love the way the guy does business. I really do. But he's a good guy.
He is honored.
He is honored when he blows your brains out. Right? He tells you, he's not going to do it while you have your back through. He's going to give you an for
You
you.
can have a gun in your hand.
And that's exactly the line.
Yep.
There you go. It's this whole, but there's also this whole frontier mentality in Firefly. This whole, exploratory nature. That's the human nature to go out there and explore. And on some level, the crew is out there not just to do jobs, not just avoiding the Alliance, not just dealing with the whole situation with River and Simon that they got themselves into, but they're also, as a lot of the stories that take place between the characters, very much explores a lot of real human issues. And I really would have liked to have seen the characters more developed and see a show like this continue because of those realistic conflicts, those real issues, and those struggles. I think people are very drawn to shows that write stories about, characters such as this, and get to watch these issues play out on screen. The story of the characters, the conflicts, and how they deal with those conflicts are very much, what attracts people to these kinds of shows. The whole Wild West and socioeconomic struggle, a lot of that is, part of Firefly. That's how the show is designed. Wild West in outer space in the future. And, how the times that they're in really drive behaviors and values. This is a key point. How the times that people are in are what drive behaviors and values. How in Firefly do we see this?
Desperation. Everyone's desperate, everyone's broke, everyone's, you're trying to bow down to a imposed system and they want away from it, and you're desperate, you're going to do what you need to do to survive. I mean, look at Mal, he's caught between the morality of trying to help everyone and the morality of help save his crew, and that's where he comes down. I mean, look at how many times he should have shot James damn face.
Yeah.
But,
Well, I like how he recruited Jane in the first place.
yeah.
That was some sweet talk in there. I get my own room. How big's that room? How much money are you paying me?
Yeah, right.
And they don't get that shot and blows them away.
That's what comes down to the situation.
You could also contrast the difference in cultures between the civilized planets, like the one Simon and River come from, and the frontier planets, and what a culture shock it is for Simon,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, Simon's this, well-educated.
ultimate privilege.
Yeah. That's Simon, and he's just like, whoa, whatever happened. Simon doesn't know how to deal with this at all. Yeah.
The idea of institutionalized people versus necessary.
Yep. Yeah. Now, from Firefly, what analogies? This is your favorite. What analogies along the lines of how the times are driving behaviors and values? What analogies can we draw about our own world that we live in now? How are the current times driving behaviors and affecting values?
How about the contrast between millennials and the generation ahead of them, and how they don't understand why can't you just get a degree and get a job? And they're going, oh, because it's that easy.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else?
When you look at the difference on both sides of the world, like what we were saying, that between the civilized planets and the outer rim, we're looking at country to country. I mean, look at the U.S. compared to Africa, not South Africa, North Africa, where they're suffering for all that stuff, and you can see where the times drive and what economical state they're in will state how people act and behave and react to certain situations.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've got, hang on a second. We've got 1, 2, 3. So, go ahead. Yep, you had hit him.
The socioeconomic strife, also the fact that they say over the years the gap growing.
Yeah, definitely is. So, yeah, the poor getting poorer. We're basically at a two-class system.
Yeah, lower class and upper class.
Yeah, lower class and upper class.
The constriction of personal freedoms as well at the same time as the expansion of technological freedoms.
Yeah.
You can see the difference in our time when we were children and growing up where you had the option to go to go outside, you have to go outside as a child. Your fear mongering is not playing outside as you have.
Yeah, we've definitely got that. That's the fear mongering factor is a real sign of our time. The other day I was in a classroom and I forget what we were talking about specifically. I was filling in for another instructor and we were leading discussion about, gosh, it was terminology, cultural terminology, and we were talking about emergency exits, mass crowd panic and things like that. And a couple of the students were focused or fixated on mass shootings. And it's like, wow, that's really what our culture is these days. I mean, how much of that is reflected here we can draw from looking at Firefly. I mean, what's driving, we have an increase obviously in mass shootings. What's causing it, and it's not video games, it's not horror movies. People like to blame these things. Back in the 1950s, McCarthyism, was a driving force behind setting up a congressional panel to try to ban comic books, because they had a bad influence on children. They turned them deviant. Well, we can't have children reading comic books, but there was a real push by Congress to ban them. And so it really, you look at the times we're in and what that means about our values and our behaviors, how we react at any given time. So somebody else have their hand up again? Yeah.
I was just going to say that we have a real, in the frontier, the outer rim, it shows like we are now, where America is like the big city, the imperative.
Yeah.
And the rest of the world is the community.
Yeah.
Out of the world. And it's just very, very interesting how we are at that point, even though it's not different planets.
No.
Right.
What's interesting, and there's a slide that I have that's more formalized like cultural settings, but you brought it up, so every planet in this universe really could be said to be representative of some culture on this planet, could it not?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, very much so. There was a lot of, to me, Josh Whedon is like the Mark Twain of our time.
Yeah.
I love Mark Twain. Mark Twain had such insight into humanity. Right up. And Whedon does that whole Twain thing. The insight that he has into humanity is just phenomenal. It's just right up there with the Mark Twain, the way he reads humans and puts that into these stories. Having Planet Indeed is really representative of some culture we have here on this planet now. And I think we all agree on that. And very much what's going on in our times does drive changes in our behavior, changes in our values, and even with each turnover of generations that happens. Anytime there's a major global conflict somewhere, that drives these kinds of changes as well, right? So I think I'll get this on the clicker. My clicker is missing. Somebody has my little black bag. So I don't have that. That's all right. Yeah. The companion is an interesting concept in itself. Definitely a significant cultural entity, and I think a very significant cultural role for the times that they existed. Now, why would a companion be a significant figure in a universe like this? What kind of status? If you were a companion, you mean?
Well, that or to reflect like companion, it was kind of like, how they're very selective about, at least in our, how she was select our clients and stuff. It shows that like you were a bit better than, what was that prick's name?
There's 150 to do.
No, I can't remember his name though. The one that he ended like stabbing like 3 times. He was, he stuck up because she chose me, and it was a cultural status thing for him because I got the most beautiful woman in the world, But the graphic companions is they had the choice. People came to them. They became powerful without containing power, and they had their choice to pick with the litter.
Yeah.
In our modern society, we don't have a level of female power, sexual power, that draws direct parallel. There's no companions. There are line networks that are usually maybe independent, but most of the time it's led by some misogynistic mindset where somebody is controlling them.
Yeah.
So the idea that there's that complete independence and all the men know that and respect that is something you don't see right
No, we
now.
still don't have, hang on, we got one here and then one back here.
Would you draw a comparison between the geishas of Japan and the past to that?
Definitely, most definitely. And a lot of that, and you know that a lot of that culture has been merged in this universe, so yeah, for sure, yeah. Yeah, and I think also on his point there, one of the things that Firefly does very well, comics as well, is brings in very strong female characters. And throughout Firefly, we have a lot of strong female characters in general.
Yeah, new job.
Yeah, I mean, Buffy and so forth. In general, we need to have that. And the only place we really have that leadership of with women, that power that we see with women, that respect of women in positions of power and status, is in science fiction and comics. We don't really have that in our own society. Women are still fighting for equal pay in our society. And, the statistics on, pay scales is phenomenal still. And this is long after a couple of waves of women's movements in this country. So I think really we can look at science fiction and comics and people turning their children on to science fiction and comics and having their young daughters, nieces, whatever, being drawn to characters that have the strength of presence that these characters have is a very significant influence overall. I think. Well, comments? It was a look I got, Marcy.
Do you think that if we're fulfilling a need for these kind of role models and these kind of examples of humanity in fiction, that the more we depend on those, that we don't spend as much time looking for those examples in the living, breathing world that we're in?
Yeah, perhaps so. I also like the idea of looking at other cultures and looking at the status of women as in a cross-cultural comparison. And really, where do we stand in the United States with respect to the status of women versus, say, one of the Asian countries, some of the women, like the geisha and even the companion.
Like maybe it's easier to use something that, like if we use geisha instead of companion in a show, it would seem alien and weird and threatening.
It would seem more threatening if we bring it that close to home, yeah.
So
you have to mask it, and then the message gets through a lot easier. Yeah.
I think one thing to consider with the whole strong female character thing is that those roles have generally increased over time. There's a certain amount of strong female characters in original Star Trek. Matt for bringing a lot of strong female characters, but you also have to consider there's also a factor financially, because half of your viewers are female, so you want to be able to appeal to them with strong female characters instead of a plethora of white men.
Yeah, you do need that because science fiction fandom is predominantly female. Yeah. Well, the stats that I've run at this point after the last 4 years, predominantly female. Maybe that's who's taking my surveys and answering my questionnaires, and the guys aren't interested. I mean, that could skew it for all I know, but the results that I keep getting back show more female involvement in fandom
Well, yeah, that's part of the thing that was seeing strong female characters in all these shows and stuff. It's actually making more prevalent in our society, more acceptable. Slowly over time, we're getting there. I mean, look at now Con coming out. Women are now more confident because we can go back 10, 12 years. Women weren't this confident to come out and dress up and be themselves and be who they were, but because of the culture we are in right now and seeing these characters on screen, it makes women feel more empowered, more comfortable with themselves and saying, you know what, screw you, I don't care what you think.
Yeah.
So it is helping, and we are slowly getting there, just taking way too long.
We're slow behind the 8 ball, cultural evolution.
You just hit on my point. I was just commenting that I was just about to comment that I think the motive of most of these science fiction seeing strong female leaders is to get the old regime used to the idea of strong female leaders, so that way when we do see it in the real world, we don't shun it immediately and downplay it and force, say, Joan of Arc to cut her hair and wear a suit of armor and shun her, or this, that, and the other thing. So I think that's what another motive behind putting them in there might be.
Oh, yeah, it could.
At least
very
my
well.
product, I don't.
Yeah. Of course, looking at Serenity itself, the ship itself seems to be, now not quite like the fire escape, okay. All right. The farscape ship that is a living entity. We can actually look at, Serenity, you can tell, it has a persona, right? It does. It has a character. It has personality traits. It's like a living, breathing entity in itself. The ship itself, we can classify that as a distinct cultural entity. It's a distinct character and has an integral part of this show. And I think it helps dictate how the characters react, how the characters develop. They're tied to that cultural center, and they're part of that cultural center, and the leader of that cultural center on that ship is the ship itself. And we can say that really, I think the co-evolution, as I have up here, co-evolution of crew, the characters, the way the ship functions is it comes from an environment as a distinct cultural member of that crew.
Well, everyone grouped, I don't know, there's like Fireflies, you all start feeling for the ship too. Like when she was dead in space on out of gas, you're going, what are they going to do to the ship? No, don't do that.
No, don't abandon it, no.
And they crashed the ship.
Oh, right? Ooh, that was so sad.
We've got two, okay, 1 and 2, yeah.
I think one of the great things about the show is, yes, the ship and everybody has their own characters, but the scene, the ship isn't always going to act like the ship and be one-dimensional. The scene will portray the hope or the hopelessness, like out of gas is the classic example.
Yeah.
You go from a complete moment of we're never going to be able to get out of this to everyone gets that jolt between the ship. He literally gets that jolt.
Yeah, now the gas is the classic example of that, for sure. It is. It contains culture unto itself, and I think some of the best scenes are really the scenes that take place between the crew interacting on that ship. That's where I see the strongest, characteristics of the crew even come out. Yeah.
Just kind of build on that, especially with the ship being lonely, and I remember in an interview, even the entire cast and crew was saying that when the show was finally over and everything, they all sat around the set of the ship because they all felt like it was home. Even throughout the show, from the very first episode all the way up to the last, it just seems like that was more homey than any other planet that they were ever on.
Well, yeah, it was definitely their world was that ship. Aside from any other world that they've ever, experienced in the show, they didn't really have a home. This was like a band of traveling misfits.